Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Stone Age Gamer. Today's episode is called Daddy Issues. Enjoy!
Happy Father's Day, everybody. How we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing great.
All right. Yes. We're back.
Happy Father's Day, Chris.
Oh, happy Father's Day, Dan. We have returned with some sexy new mics for both two of our constituents here. This is the Stone Age Gamer podcast, and I'm rambling like an idiot because it's Father's Day, and I am incredibly well fed because I have the best wife in the world. No offense to other wives out there. My name is Chris Randazzo.
I beg to differ.
I bet you would.
We can fight about this later.
I think we should. I think that's the right thing to do. I'll be the host of the evening, Chris Randazzo, and with me, as always, is Dan Ryan.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Mike Sheridan.
Hola.
And website proprietor, Dean DeFalco.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, God, that was really creepy.
Oh. I need an adult.
As we mentioned before, today is Father's Day, so we're going to do a quick little one here today about it's a Father's Day special. We're talking about our favorite video game dads. They're not all necessarily good video game dads, but these are our favorites. So that's going to be the general topic of discussion today. Before we jump in, how's everyone doing?
Doing great, man. I had an awesome Father's Day. My wife, like I said, I would completely argue she is way better. She's awesome.
Yeah.
guys, let's not have a wife fight here. I don't want to get into this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little different for me, and because my kids are 5, so I get to have Father's Day with kids that are really excited that it's Father's Day, even though they really still don't understand what that concept means. But they were, goddamn, were they excited this morning? They were over the moon. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Yeah, my kid's 9 months old, so he doesn't have a huge concept of what's going on. But I did actually get to play some quote unquote video games with him this morning, which is pretty nice. I put him in my lap and we played some Runner 2, and he tried to eat the analog sticks on the Wii U gamepad. But
nice, as well he should.
As well he should. Yeah, I did a little tour de force of a handful of my favorite games. I fired up the Wii U. I played some Runner 2. I played a couple levels of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is freaking phenomenal. And then I played some Mega Man 3. I played some Super Mario World. And then before I went to work, I played some Bit Trip Flux. And so I had a little bit of gaming in before I had to work on Father's Day. But it was a damn good day.
Nice. We did Super Metroid and Super Castlevania for a bit today.
Nice. That's spectacular.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Dean, Mike, you guys do any good gaming today?
No, actually I was out with my dad most of the day, so when I got back, I kind of just set up for the podcast, but I had a lot of fun on Father's Day with my dad, and I gotta say he's kind of largely the reason that I'm still kind of trying to do this stuff with the podcast, so you guys have him to thank for keeping this stuff afloat for the time being. Also, I got a new microphone again, so I sound sexy.
Damn, Skippy. How about you, Mike?
I woke up early and went to work. Kind of sucked.
Oh.
But I did get a new mic today, thanks to Dean, and I don't sound like I'm talking out of a cardboard tube anymore.
Well, on that super high note, we're going to get started on today's episode. So, Dan, why don't you start us off? Tell us about your video game dad.
All right. Well, in thinking about the video game dad that I perhaps most admired as a young child, the only name that made any sense to me whatsoever was Mike Haggar from Final Fight. And if you have never seen the Ballad of Mike Haggar on YouTube, it is this 8-minute epic poem that some dude wrote and took video clips of Final Fight games and spliced them in with some RPG things going on. And it is this epic poem of Mike Haggar and his quest to basically save the world. It's absolutely incredible. But I digress. For me, it's Haggar, man, from Final Fight, right? Final Fight first comes out in arcades in 1989. and eventually gets ported to Super Nintendo. Japan gets it first; they get it in 1990, and we in America get it in 1991. So I was about 10 or 11 when this game came out. It came out in Europe in 1992. The reason for me that Haggar is the ultimate video game dad here is that at his very core, the essence of his being is a story about a dad, right? Our very first exposure to this character, his daughter, at the very start of Final Fight, gets kidnapped by the Mad Gear Gang in Metro City. And Haggar, being a former professional wrestler, because, that's good on-the-job training to then become the newly elected mayor of Metro City, he goes on this just insane rampage through the Mad Gear Gang. You're talking about a dude here who not only does he have an incredibly sweet mustache that Ron Swanson himself would be jealous of, but we're talking about a 6'7", 270-pound ex-professional wrestling mayor walking through the streets of Metro City, kicking ass. He goes after every street punk, every gang member, transvestite, because there
or
are
prostitute if you're in Japan,
or prostitute if you're in Japan, and he just runs roughshod through this game, and he's awesome. I mean, that's the dad we all want. We want the dad that in his bio he is referred to as a former street fighter, mostly because Final Fight started its development as a sequel to the original arcade Street Fighter. The game was originally being sold by the Capcom representatives. Their marketing team went to their programmers and said, "We need a sequel to Street Fighter. What do you got?" And this is what was going to be Street Fighter 89 at the time. But thankfully, people decided not a good idea to make this the sequel to Street Fighter. Doesn't really work. Let's shuffle this off into its own thing and, basically become one of the most iconic beat-em-ups that gaming has ever gotten.
I think one important piece of this whole puzzle that you're missing is that, yes, he went out there and pummeled the Mad Gear Gang with his fists to cut down on street crime and to save his daughter. But not only was he willing to do it alone, but he would just pick up the phone and call either his daughter Jessica's boyfriend, Cody, to come help him stab dudes, or some ninja he knows named Guy.
It's like, when you look at the story of the Final Fight games, it's like Axe Cop, but the early 90s version of Axe Cop. Because
it wasn't written by a child.
No, this was written by grown-ass men that thought that this story made a lot of sense. I mean, not only do you have Haggar in the Final Fight stuff, but a couple years later, Capcom put out Saturday Night Slam Masters, where Haggar, it kind of tells his backstory of his professional wrestling career, how he was kind of the old ex-champion wrestler guy who is training the up-and-comers, dudes with names like Gunlock and Biff Slamkovich, which is just the greatest friggin' wrestling name that there has ever been, right? And he even has a tag team in the storyline of Saturday Night Slam Masters with Alexander the Greater, and their team name is the Knuckle Dusters. That's amazing.
Effing genius right there.
It really is. I mean, and throughout the story, right, the only game that features him, going to find his daughter is this first one. But he is incredibly successful in the first Final Fight. He destroys the Mad Gear Gang, kills their boss at the end, right, only to have them, as good video game villains do, have the Mad Gear Gang resurface for Final Fight, 2 and 3. But we've got a guy that not only here is he willing to be a father to his daughter, but I think what really makes him, in my eyes, the ultimate video game dad is that when Galactus threatens the Earth in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, he is finally ready to join the fight. And if you play through his story and get the Mike Haggar ending, Mike Haggar becomes president after he kills Galactus and is joined by not only is Haggar president, which is awesome. I mean, ex-wrestler, Street Fighter, mayor, ass-kicker president.
Galactus Slayer.
Defender of the universe.
Slayer, defender of the universe. His vice president is Tony Stark, naturally. And Captain America, serves as his military commander. It's amazing. He is the video game guy. So do I, right? He is the video game dad that I wish I had in real life. I wish that this were actually some things that had happened.
Would you say that fight with Galactus was the final fight?
Ooh, see what you did there? It very well. I mean, had Haggar failed us, which he would never do, because not only is he, his father's daughter, but his daughter's father, he's really kind of our father as well, if you look at it.
He is father to us all.
He really is. It would have been the final fight.
There is something that he did actually kind of sort of fail at, is a Skrtak's death battle. They pitted him against Zangief, and he lost. How do you feel about that?
It's utter hogwash.
I don't know, man. They backed up their claims. I trust those death battle things are incredibly well thought out. And while I do believe that Haggar is the cooler of the two, it broke my heart to see Zangief win because I knew they were right.
But he's the Red Cyclone, man. You don't mess with that guy.
Dude wrestles bears. I mean,
for fun,
just for kicks. He's got hair. He's got shin hair that could put most people's heads to shame.
That's true. That is very true. And
all of those are fair points.
And come on,
I agree.
He lifts you 20 feet in the air in his crotch, and then slams you down onto a hard floor. I'm pretty sure that would kill most people. Mike Hagar's lucky he survived that.
Yeah, but you know what? Mike Haggar is hands down the better dad.
Oh, by far. I mean, I don't even think Zangief has a kid.
I sure hope not.
That Speedo, I think, inhibits a lot of baby-making abilities.
Yikes.
If he does, it is some weird half Russian wrestler, half bear hybrid.
Yep.
Because
our Micah from Street Fighter Alpha 3.
That's possible. But, he quote-unquote wrestles bears. I don't know what you tell your kids you're doing in the bedroom, but mommy and daddy are wrestling.
And on that note, we're going to move on to the next one. Mike, speaking of wrestling bears, tell us about your video game dad choice.
Well, it's no surprise that I'm sticking with Castlevania. I picked Dracula, the Konami's Darth Vader.
Darth.
Am I wrong here?
Well, I mean, wasn't the whole thing with Darth Vader that he was this whiny kid who became the greatest villain of all time?
Okay,
at the very end.
Let's go episodes 4 through 7.
Let's ignore that. Forget I said that. Let's just go based on the original Star Wars trilogy. I just can't see Dracula. Dracula's the Emperor more than he's Vader, because there's no one for him to turn on. Dracula don't take orders from nobody.
Yeah, but the thing is, he wasn't always Dracula. He started off as, if we're going with the new lore from Castlevania, he was a good guy.
Oh, you're talking about the Gabriel Belmont route.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the question. Which Dracula are you referring to? Are you
I'm not referring to that
Shadow?
one, but...
You're talking about classic Kid Dracula style.
Yeah.
So, yeah, new Dracula is Vader, but old Dracula is totally the Emperor.
Yeah, I concur. I'll agree.
I would venture to say that guy was a dick even before he was a vampire.
But Dracula has a son. It's Alucard. I'm mainly referencing Symphony of the Night here. But, yeah, he's just a dick. I'm going the complete opposite side of the spectrum as Dan did, Dan picked a good dad. Me, douchebag dad,
It would be like if Dan named his kid Nad. Seriously, Dracula's been alive for all this time, and he thinks to himself, I have a son, huh? Well, my name backwards. That's a good call.
And I want to know, how he had a kid. How is Alucard made? I don't want the birds and the bees story here, but, where do you go out? Be like, hey, I'm going to go, just impregnate this broad. Just, hey, pop out a kid. Did he go to a bar? Like,
I think that's how it happened. I'm picturing Dracula. You know, what is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets, thinking to himself, I gotta get laid. Travels to the local village, finds some wench. And now, do you think he smooth talks him, or do you think it's full on rapey?
No, he did the Dracula magic on her, man. You know, like, you want to bone me, and she's like, you're right, I do want to bone you, and that's how it happened.
I got to disagree. I think it's full on straight rapey from what I know of Dracula.
Straight rapey.
Straight rapey. Like not only like in the human form, but like he entered some chick's room. This is a horrible topic for us to be on. He entered some woman's room as mist, right? Like, so she didn't even know.
This is just getting weird. This is getting fanfic weird.
He did it as mist and not as the wolf.
Well, you got a point. I got a point.
I don't know. I feel like the bat would be the worst.
Would she get rabies then?
Oh, God.
That'd be his biggest challenge.
The physics of that are mind-boggling.
This is quickly turning into an after-hours podcast.
This was supposed to be sweet. This was supposed to be nice on Father's Day. And we're, 15, 20 minutes in, and it's rapey already.
Rape.
Animal rape.
Jesus. My goodness, gentlemen.
Alucard comes out and he's like, "Yo, Dad, you're a dick, so I'm just gonna beat the crap out of you." I just summed up Symphony of the Night. You could save yourself some hours. That's it. It's just,
Why would you want to?
Oh, that's much better voice acting though. Just that right there. Just Dad, you're a dick.
Yep.
That's. Oh my goodness.
Alucard, what is your business here? I've come to put an end to this.
You steal men's souls. Like that whole game of just all those lines.
Oh God, that's one of those things that I can't not say. I have such a hard time. It's kind of like Cartman with a "Come Sail Away." And they do it to me at work from time to time. And somebody starts saying that Symphony of the Night thing, and I just got to finish it. It's bad.
But yeah, like if I'm going to go with this whole storyline, I'm going to say Symphony of the Night was the best one to interpret it, that he's a dick. You know, because what everybody calls Alucard now really just first appeared in Symphony of the Night. You know, big change from Dracula's Curse.
Yeah, I mean, he was still out to get his dad in Dracula's Curse, though.
Yeah, but
and
like
seriously,
visually.
Dracula's Curse. What a dick move! Like, I mean, I get that the Belmont that Simon was trying to kill him, but what a horrible night to have a curse.
But yeah, I went the complete opposite side of the spectrum. Dan went good dad, I went dick dad.
It's true. You went undead on that one.
Yeah.
Well, we all love Castlevania, as evidenced by previous podcasts. I'm gonna go next, and I think my dad might be a little bit, maybe even more of a dick. I'm going with the King of all Cosmos from Katamari Damaci, who is probably the worst father I've ever seen.
Hey kid, I partied too hard. Go fix everything for me.
Yeah, basically the story of the original Katamari game is your dad, who's the king of all cosmos, who is one of the most flamboyant, bizarre characters I've ever seen in any video game. And he goes out and gets drunk one night and accidentally destroys all the stars. So his kid, whom he verbally abuses within an inch of his life, just this little tiny dude, the prince of all cosmos. He's like, I need you to go to Earth. I need you to roll a bunch of crap up into a ball and launch it into space to replace all those stars that I ruined. And he just sends you down there with a Katamari and things stick to it. And you roll around and you launch things up into space and try to win your dad's approval. I mean, the whole game really boils down to trying to win over your dad's impossible approval. And God, I love that game. And he's so interesting to listen to and to look at. But, man, what a dick.
See, I disagree. I think he's a good dad. I do. Like, one, yes, he destroys all the stars in a night of drunken wrestling. Am I wrong here? Was he not wrestling with his mother? Is that not how that happened?
It's possible.
Okay. I thought anyway, when he sends his son down to Earth to remake the stars, as you are going down, not only does he fill the planet with stuff, right? He gives you interesting things to roll up. He gives you a reasonable amount of time to do so. He gives you a reasonable demand on how big your Katamari should be by the time that you're done. And then if you do finish on time, he lets you screw around a little bit more like a good dad. He's like, you're home. You did your job early. Here, have some free time. This is for you, bud. Here you go. And then when you're all done, when time is up, not only does he bring you back home on a bridge, he brings you back on a rainbow bridge.
That he barfs out of his mouth.
Whatever. That's personal. That shows that he cares. It's not just any old bridge.
Yes, but only if you live up to his standards. Say you don't make the Katamari the right size, or you don't do it in the right amount of time. He's a dick. He will totally berate you. He's always making fun of how small you are.
Well, it's tough love, Chris. It's tough love.
Oh, what is he, Tywin Lannister? I don't think so.
Oh,
it's
good.
tough love, and I guess there's a certain lovable charm to him, but he's still a terrible father. And who are all those other characters? Are they also his kids, or are they cousins, or what are those other Katamari characters that are not the prince that you get to play as in the later Katamari games? Because I don't really play many of the later Katamaris. I like the first one.
The first one's an absolutely amazing game. When that game came out, it was $20, brand new. I mean, because you have a game that weird coming out, you really can't sell it more for $20. But just absolutely incredible game. Absolutely.
That game was so incredible that Shigeru Miyamoto actually said that he wished that was a concept that he came up with.
Yeah, and honestly, that is the highest praise.
That is, humongous praise. And I honestly can't even fathom why that game hasn't shown up on a Nintendo console yet, because it's just that right kind of feeling.
I have no experience with that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to rectify that situation.
That's an amazing game. It's one of my favorites.
Mine music in that game is out of control awesome.
Oh, man. The soundtrack to the first game, really none of the soundtracks have even come close to adding up to the first one. That soundtrack is just... I still listen to those tracks all the time. One of the best soundtracks of the last 20 years, maybe. It's just
absolutely
holy heck good.
Without question.
And very bizarre. God, I can't say it. I cannot stop gushing about the original Katamari Damacy. And that was a really fun time to work in game stores. I loved selling that game to people. Like, oh, this is from the creator of Pac-Man. Go nuts. And
there was Katamari came out, and then there was some weird frog golf game that came out.
Ribbit King.
They came out pretty close to each other, if my memory serves.
That game was fucking bizarre.
And they're so weird and awesome. Like, I do kind of miss that experimental, like Mr. Mosquito and Katamari and Ribbit Golf and Ribbit King, all that stuff. Just crazy. And you're right, I worked in a video game store at that time too. And every time somebody would come in saying, like, I don't know, I'm bored, I want to play something new. Here's Katamari. This game's amazing. Play it for 5 minutes, and if you don't buy this for $20, you're an idiot.
Yeah, I'd do the same thing. I'd put it in my interactives, and people would buy it just because, look at this. It's so therapeutic to just roll things up into a ball and launch it into space. And the game's funny. It's just brilliant. And half of that comedy comes from the King of All Cosmos, who, while I stand behind him being a shitty dad, he's also one of the most memorable game characters of recent vintage. He's fantastic.
I agree.
I had something else I was going to say. Damn it. I can't remember what it is. Well, all right. King of All Cosmos, Katamari Damacy. Damn fine game. Mike, we're going to have to find a way to get you to play that soon.
I agree.
So on to our last. Mr. Dean, who is your video game father of choice?
Okay, well, you guys were all like, you should just do Dr. Light. And I was like, no, he's too much of a good dad. I don't want to do a good dad, but...
He's got a nice beard.
He does have a nice beard.
Every dad we picked has had good facial hair.
Well, this other man has a good beard.
Oh, man, you're right.
We have. I guess dads in video games just sort of have to have facial hair every now and again.
It's one of the more true things that I've ever heard said in my entire life. But real men have facial hair.
A customer came into my store the other day and had a T-shirt. No, it wasn't a customer. It was my friend Mike who works at the store. He had a T-shirt that said, "There's a name for people without beards. It's women." But the facial hair thing, how does that stack up with James McCloud?
He's got hair on his face.
He does. But does he have like a fox mustache or something like that? Does he have like a fox beard? I gotta see a picture of James.
Yeah, it's called his entire face. It's covered with fur.
He's got a face beard. He's got a neck beard. He is literally a walking beard.
He's basically 100% man at that point.
Absolutely.
100% beard.
But I digress. So,
dude, he's got no beard. He's just got sunglasses. It's freaking Fox with sunglasses. I love Star Fox. I'm sorry, Dean. Go on.
It's okay. I'm glad you got out your love for Star Fox, your affection there.
Look at a picture of James McCloud from Star Fox 64. It's the exact same polygon set with a pair of aviators.
Bro, that's how you know you're ultimately cool at that point, when you got aviators on. My character is Dr.Cain from Mega Man X. For those of you who don't know, Dr.Cain is the person that discovered Mega Man X after 100 years passed from when Dr. Light sort of stuck X in a tube and was like, "You need to be tested more while the world goes to shit." So...
I think the intro screen on my copy of Mega Man X read a little differently.
Well, I mean...
That's exactly how I remember it.
Yeah, well, essentially that's what happens, because you don't see no monuments to Mega Man anywhere. You don't... Dr. Light's all but forgotten. He's kind of but a fossil. Literally, he's probably a fossil. But, so... Dr. Cain finds X, and he's like, "Oh, this robot's amazing. He has feelings and emotions, and the right to choose between right and wrong, and all that stuff," which makes X completely unique compared to regular Reploids. So he goes about making his own set of these robots like Mega Man X, and he can't get it quite right, but to him they're good enough where... You know, they'll listen, they can choose between right and wrong, and they seem almost identical in performance to X. Actually, they seem to almost surpass X at the beginning of the game. So, bad part is, he's a little misguided in his dadliness, because later on, once Zero is kind of introduced into the picture and everything, Zero has like a virus in him that is... potentially harmful to all the other Reploids that is really unbeknownst to Dr. Cain, and it infects his big boss Reploid named Sigma. And Sigma is like the king of the Reploids. He's stronger than X, he's stronger than Zero, he's stronger than everyone at the beginning. There's nothing that can stop him. Well, this
can stop him.
What was it?
The Hadouken can stop him.
Yes, the Hadouken can stop him in one shot. If you're really big gamers like us and want to get all those secret awesome tanks, which you probably should. But he turns on literally everyone and creates disorder and chaos through, what is it, 8 games now? I think it's 8. X8?
Yeah. Unless you count Extreme 1 and 2 and what's the RPG? Was he in the RPG command mission?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with the main storyline here, and I'm going to say 8 games.
Let's go with 50.
50 games. He created chaos through 50 games.
He was very busy.
So I mean, his intentions were good as a, I guess, a creator and a dad, because all he wanted to do was try and make these robots that essentially were X and, you know, could feel and understand things and better humanity, but in the end it all backfired, and he almost created the end of humanity for the most part. You know, Sigma had all these amazing badass robots on his side. Shout out to Spark Mandrill over there, one of my favorite video game villains. But it just I think he meant well as just a creator and a father, because all these robots looked up to him as their father and creator, maybe aside from X. And even at that point, X looked to Dr. Cain for guidance and stuff, because he found him, turned him back on, and got him working again. But like I said, his efforts were misguided, I guess, because in the end everything kind of blew up against him, and he got in deep crap. Especially if you're reading the Mega Man X backstory in the Mega Man comics, he gets into some deep crap with the government and stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that stuff's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've been loving to read it, and it's super cool, and I fucking love Mega Man X. So, yeah, Dr. Cain's my pick. He tried to better everyone by making these robots, but in the end, he almost kind of caused the end of the world for the most part. Robots would have ruled the world if it wasn't for X.
Well, that's an interesting thing you bring up, because if my Mega Man universe timeline is correct, Mega Man Legends takes place after the X series, right? It goes X, then Zero, then ZX, then Legends is the furthest in the future.
Legends is, but it's ridiculously far in the future.
And humans don't exist in that anymore. It's just robots.
Correct. So something did happen, but we don't know when, because I believe in Mega Man Zero, humans are still alive. I could be wrong. Maybe they're Reploids, but I thought there were humans.
Yeah, because in the Zero games, no, ZX, the ones that take place after it, it's humans that put on Zero or X armor. So they become imbued with the powers of X or Zero. I think that's how that works. I'm a little shaky on that because, boy, Mega Man mythology gets weird by that point.
It even between Mega Man and Mega Man X, it gets a little shaky because all you know is that Dr. Light stuck Mega Man in a time capsule, more or less, and there's no more Mega Man, so I can only assume he dismantled Mega Man to make X or something like that, or Mega Man got incredibly damaged or destroyed, and he needed a stronger robot to carry on the Protector legacy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they have never really answered that question of how the regular Mega Man series makes it to the X series.
And I need to know. I need to. But till then, I guess I'll just have to keep speculating. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, like what happens to Dr. Light. I mean, obviously Dr. Light gets old and dies, but there's plenty of his robots lying around that, what happened to all of them. Because by the time X comes along, there's no sign of any of them anymore. There's only a remnant of Dr. Wily's creation, which is Zero. And there's a remnant of Dr. Light's creation, which is X, and that's it. There's no mention of them anymore after that.
That is a fascinating piece of Mega Man mythology history that the comics are doing an interesting way of tackling right now. If you haven't been reading the Mega Man comic books, they're really good. They started off really adhering very clearly to the Mega Man video game mythos, but at a certain point they introduced this terrorist organization called Emerald Spears, which is funny because the production company that made the Mega Man cartoon in America is called Ruby Spears. So, fun little nod to that, play on that.
I just watched that the other day, by the way.
Oh, man. That show.
It's so bad.
He's a super fighting robot.
So bad.
It's so bad. It's so much better than what Mega Man was on Captain N, but it's still so bad.
And why is Rush Scooby-Doo? What's up with
I got
that?
so pissed at that. I was like, I remember this being a lot different.
It's such a good theme song, though.
It is. It is a catchy theme song. There's a handful of really cool animation bits. In fact, there was I've never seen it, but there's a pilot, a bunch of test animation before the Ruby Spears show actually came out that Capcom was making a Mega Man cartoon. They showed it at an E3 or something like that, and it had a very anime style and far more anime. And there's actually a little piece of it in the intro to that Ruby Spears show. It's like a bit with the Batantons flying, and you don't really notice it because they're Batantons. They're the little black orbs that turn into bats, and you can't really notice that it's a different animation style, but if you really pause it and look at it, it is a totally different animation style than the rest of it because it was just salvaged footage from this other stuff that never actually got put into production, which, from what I've come to understand, looked way cooler than what the show eventually turned into. Anyway, back to where I was going before. In the comic book, they made this Emerald Spears terrorist group, and their whole thing is that robots should not be given free will, and robots are going to be the demise of mankind. And it seems that the leader of that terrorist organization did something to create like this major hatred between robots and machines that X is dealing with in the future, which is how they're setting up this whole Mega Man X thing in the comics. It's just really interesting to see them kind of bridge the gap in the comic books that the way the games never have only kind of alluded to. And I guess it's just my way of saying that the Mega Man comic is really freaking good, and you should read it.
Yeah, you guys totally should read the Mega Man comics by Archie Comics, by the same guy who actually writes the Sonic comic books, Ian Flynn. But he does a way better job on Mega Man than he does on Sonic.
Yeah, the Sonic comics are kind of a disaster. Except the Mega Man Sonic crossover they did last year.
Well, you know what it was? Like, I think he got handed, not to get too off topic, and I won't take too long explaining this, but I think he got handed this steaming pile of shit that was the original comic book line that I think he stepped in after 100 issues of, which had to do more or less with the Sonic...
the ABC cartoon.
Yes. The one that was like 26 episodes long. That was fantastic.
It was a little bit more serious in tone.
Oh,
yeah.
God, it was so good. But they made it kiddie, and it killed whatever the cartoon did in every way, shape, and form. And I guess Archie was like, here, fix this. And he did the best that he could, and the universe has gotten a lot crazier, and I almost think, if I remember correctly, they used the Mega Man Sonic crossover as a point to sort of restart where Sonic was going at that point, too.
Yeah, they kind of used it as a primer thing. That Mega Man Sonic crossover was weird because it gave them an excuse to write in characters that hadn't yet existed in the Mega Man universe and also fix a lot of continuity issues in the Sonic universe by having it be very time travel-y and weird.
It was very cool.
Really cool to see all these future characters from the Mega Man universe fighting because you had all these nods to the Game Boy games and later Robot Masters. Bass was in it, and that stuff was incredibly cool to see. But not really knowing much about the Sonic comic universe, that half of it didn't really. It almost made me want to pick up a Sonic comic, but I read enough comics, so
exactly.
I just continued with Mega Man.
Yeah, the thing is, they have this universe with Princess Sally Acorn, I think her name is, and all those characters, which is the TV show continuity. And then they have the ridiculous Sonic Dreamcast continuity where there's Amy, Knuckles, Vector, fucking the whole 9 yards. And it's almost like they keep them separate now. And I think they took the opportunity to explain why that universe is no more and why this new Sonic the newer Sonic universe is the one that they're writing for, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, a little bit. So, video game dads.
Sorry, I got off topic. I apologize.
I want to point out here that you guys all fucking picked terrible dads. What is that about? Where is your positive, happy-go-lucky attitude?
Dr. Cain's not a bad guy, though. He's just a guy who wanted to do good things, and it fucked up for him. I mean, he's not a villain by any means. If you create the possibility of Sigma, you're a bad dude. Like, you gotta think a little harder, man. Like, you've gotta give a little more thought to that. All right. I'm happy you brought this up because this leads to a little bit of a debate. That anything could have happened. He took the chance to try and make things better. Sigma is essentially a good robot. There's nothing bad about him in the beginning of the book. It's more or less that this virus corrupts him in the game, and that's what happens to him.
And that comes from Wily, doesn't it?
Yeah. Zero is in fact he's patient zero essentially. I guess so. That's a really good name for him, is Zero. So he has this virus that is inside of him when the capsule opens that's containing him, and when he pops out, he goes at X and Sigma like no one's business and tries to take him down. What I think happens is he ends up cutting Sigma, and that's how Sigma gets infected with this virus. After they bring him back, they see the virus and they take care of it, but they don't look at Sigma at all. So Sigma has this thing slowly growing inside of him for a while, and it only takes effect after many, many months. So I can only assume he was fighting this for a while and, was too proud to admit anything of it. I might be reading too far into this, but I would like to think that's what happened, because if you check out Mega Man X Maverick Hunter, there are some really, really cool cutscenes with all of them in it, Chill Penguin, Sigma, Spark Mandrill, all of them. And it sort of pictures Sigma as a fallen hero, or, a good guy that just got infected and turned bad. And after that, the rest is history. He was just permanently a bad guy after that. But that could happen to anyone. That, you can look at Dead Space for that fact. And, the marker turns good people into insane psychopaths. So I don't think Cain is necessarily a bad guy. He's a good guy that, just didn't foresee this coming or happening, and it ended up, tarnishing his reputation and stuff in the end, because he brought about a time of happiness and ease for humanity that no one could have matched, and then it all turned to shit for him when Sigma rebelled and brought tons and tons of robots that he infected with this virus with him. And unfortunately, he never recovered from that. I think he died like 2 games later.
That's not a bad point. I will concede that point. I'm sort of surprised that, not that there's anything wrong with it. When I was looking at this topic, I thought I was expecting positive choices from everyone, and I think it's interesting that not everybody went with positive choices. I'm kind of surprised nobody took Splinter as a video game dad. I mean, that's kind of cheating, because that's more of a, it's more
Splinter
of a
was
show,
in Castlevania, I would have picked him.
God damn it, that's awesome. I mean, I just, we have a fornicator who kills all the stars. We have a rapist bloodsucker. Just, oh, happy Father's Day. God damn.
Well, here's a question. What are and this is actually a pretty interesting question, and not to shamelessly plug, but the Nintendo Force did a whole bit on this. Where have all the fathers gone? What other good video game dads are there?
Well, actually, I can't think of many, because if you consider, who is it, Big Boss from Metal Gear, he's essentially a bad guy. I mean, he turns bad.
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man is an excellent father.
Well, I think that's too obscure.
Nothing but provide for his children.
Provide for Junior Pac-Man and Baby Pac-Man.
Yeah,
I mean, you've
seriously.
got Dr. Light. That's a similar situation as Dr.Cain. But for the most part, video game dads are painted as kind of sort of either bad guys or, I brought up James McCloud earlier. I guess he's kind of
a good dad.
Yeah.
Jecht, that's his name, right? Jecht from Final Fantasy?
Yeah, but he's inadvertently a good dad, and you don't find out about it till the very end. Before that, you think, well, he's painted as a hero, and then you find out midway through the game that, part of this sin monster is his fault.
Fair enough.
Where's Link's dad in any Legend of Zelda game? I mean, he has an uncle in A Link to the Past who promptly gets his ass beat. He gives Link a sword and says, "Go save the world." I mean, you see Mario's parents at the end of Yoshi's Island for a brief second, but you only see their feet. I mean, Sonic doesn't really have parents as far as I can tell.
All right, well, what about, this is getting a little new school, but I guess just for the sake of argument, Adam Phoenix, Marcus Phoenix's dad. I mean, he's technically a good guy.
What is that, Gears of War?
Yes.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Well, yeah, I would say he's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to come up with a way to destroy that whole locust plague thing going on, but got kidnapped beforehand and, had to try and make his way to do good. And when they finally found him, he ended up ending everything, which I feel is admirable.
Yeah.
So we got one so far. Very good.
What's the guy's name in, what is it? Silent Hill. The guy's name in Silent Hill.
Oh, yeah, he's a good guy. That one's going to elude me, but the very first game where he's looking for his daughter and everything.
Yeah.
He's definitely a good guy. There's no doubt about that. I believe he ends up going crazy or something by the end of the game, but yeah, he's...
you can't really blame him, but...
No, yeah, totally. I mean, he's definitely a good guy in that game. He's doing the right thing. He's trying to find his daughter, and there's really nothing else to it on that one. His reasons are very pure for trying to save his daughter.
I don't know, Sam Fisher, Splinter Cell? I mean, his daughter dies, but, I mean, he goes revenge and shit. Do we consider that good?
He let his daughter die. I don't know if that's exactly good.
Failure.
That was going to be my argument in Heavy Rain, but, yeah, spoilers for a 10-year-old game at this point. Kid dies in Heavy Rain, too.
I mean, and then you got Bowser, who forgot about his kids for 7 years. Well, I hangs out with Baby Bowser.
Yeah,
tells Baby Bowser that Peach is his mother, and then the Koopa Kids all of a sudden show back up.
That was weird.
I'm looking through my collection right now, and I'm like, wow, I can't find really any good dads. This is tough. Ninja Gaiden, I guess, Gaiden, whatever.
No, he's a good dad.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, you don't really know much about him. He goes off, gets murdered, and
revenge.
Yeah, I will have my revenge.
The big daddies are good in BioShock.
They are.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I got one.
They're protective of their children.
This is more a father-like figure, but what about Gouken from Street Fighter?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I think that would probably
Sensei.
be the only one that would probably be a good father-like figure, completely 100% in the green.
Not evil, but look at what kind of life does Ryu have? He's a hobo. He's a traveling hobo Street Fighter. He doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a job. He's got a white bag, and God knows what's in it.
When you have nothing, you have everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the life he chose for himself.
He just hangs out and punches waterfalls. Dude's got to be lonely.
No.
He's got Ken.
Exactly. And Ken's a billionaire, so
who really wants Ken?
I want Ken.
Yeah, good point. Ken sucks. That's true.
That's not cool.
But Ken's a good dad.
There we go. Ken is a
pretty good dad. That's a good one.
And on the other side of that, Guile's a bad dad.
No, he's a great dad.
Wait, no.
He encourages others people to be good dads.
Go
home and be a family man.
You can't be a bad dad with that hair.
No, you're right. I mean, he's my favorite Street Fighter character of all time, mainly just because he evokes America all over him. He bleeds America. He literally bleeds America. He fights in a U.S. Air Force base against other people while his crewmates are cheering him on. He's as badass as they get.
Not one, but 2 American flag tattoos.
Exactly.
America.
But, yeah, I mean, he's being a hypocrite if he's saying go home and be a family man, but his family's waiting for him, while he's trying to take revenge for his comrade's death.
Hey, man, he's got to stop. He's got to stop Bison for the good of everybody. If he
Son
doesn't
of a
stop
bitch, Bison.
Then he's going to come for his kids. That's right. He's being a good dad to his country.
You know what? Just because he's Guile, I concede. I stand corrected.
That's right.
What about Barrett? Barrett Wallace from Final Fantasy VII.
All right.
I mean, come on.
He's got a gun hand.
I don't know enough about his backstory. I'm sorry.
I mean,
he's got a gun hand.
He's an I can't say he's a great dad because he's leaving his child in someone else's care so he can go and more or less sacrifice himself if that's what it takes to save the world.
But
and
no, he is like Joel in The Last of Us, right? These are dads that take care of adoptive children that do what they have to do to protect their kids. that aren't even theirs, but they love them like their own. Those are good people.
All right, I stand corrected about Barrett. He is a pretty good guy. He does look after that kid, even though it's not his.
And the guy from The Walking Dead, the Telltale Walking Dead games, Lee, he takes on an adoptive daughter in those games as well. Which, if you haven't played those are amazing. But
Are they?
oh, they really are. The story in those it's so good. It's so good. If you're into The Walking Dead, if you don't like Walking Dead stuff, I mean more and more. If you don't like The Walking Dead comics, I don't know that the game has a lot to offer to you. But if you are into The Walking Dead comics, the games are incredible.
Well, cool.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to have to call it a night. Tell us what video game dads you like. What are your favorite video game dads? How do you feel about our discussion about video game dads? We would love to hear from you. Dean, what's the email address?
That's Geek Life Site, G33K, Life, L-I-F-E, Site, S-I-T-E, @gmail.com.
That's outstanding. So, yes, tell us what you think of this podcast. Tell us what you think of video game dads, video game moms, whatever you like, or topics you'd like us to talk about. We are dying to hear from every last one of you. And speaking of every last one of you, if you would kindly go over to iTunes and rate us positively and give us nice fancy 5-star ratings, that helps other people find our podcast, and the more people to listen to it, the more fancy schmancy mics we can get, the more wonderful things will happen to all those involved. Any plugs to do? Any content anybody wants to point out before we go?
Well, as soon as we figure out a name for drinking beer with me, well, as soon as we figure all that out, because apparently there's another brew review show on iTunes, even though I can't find it. So I don't know about all that. But, yeah, we'll get those up relatively soon here. I think we'll decide on a name in the next day or two and get those out there for your listening pleasure.
Excellent. Dean, you got anything?
Check out our other podcast, which is The Geek Philosophers, which is awesome. That's me and my buddy Scott talking about all kinds of stuff. The episode that's about to go up was supposed to go up last week, but we had some scheduling difficulties, so it's going up this week. It is Godzilla and Friends, and we're just talking about Godzilla, the new movie, old Godzilla movies, my personal favorites, and some other good Godzilla facts. Check that out. Also, if you guys got time, check out the Kickstarter from Brian Buscioletto, which is Sons of the Devil. He's working hard to create a comic of his own, and that is a very, very large feat, so he kind of needs some help. Check out the Kickstarter. If you like what he has to say, throw a few bucks at him. Every little bit helps.
Mike, you got anything?
Everybody should check out Dean playing Castlevania on the YouTube.
Yeah, I did forget about that. I am doing a Let's Play of Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance on our YouTube channel, which I believe is linked on our website. So check that out. That's www.geeklife.com, G33KLIFE.com.
Very cool. And you can find me in Nintendo Force Magazine. It's a bi-monthly magazine, and it's in print, and it is in digital, and it is dedicated to the wonderment that is all things Nintendo. It's really a spiritual successor to Nintendo Power. So if you ever had any love for old school Nintendo Power, this magazine is the magazine for you. And that's going to wrap it up tonight. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Audience, thank you very much for listening. This has been the Stone Age Forever podcast, and we'll see you guys in about a week. All right, so let's say that Dracula decides. Dracula meets a nice looking wench, a nice woman he thinks he can settle down with. Let's suppose that's the situation. I don't know where I was going with that.
So no rapey?
Yes. You know what? It's Dracula. He's gonna rape the shit out of some bitches. It's just how it's gonna go.
Oh God. Oh.